Marcus Auraleus said, "No man is tired of receiving what is useful, but it is useful to act according to nature. Do not then be tired of receiving what is useful by doing it to others." I read that and I thought, what did he mean by that? And then it occurred to me what he's saying is no one dislikes having good done in their life. So then do not be weary of doing good to others, because the best way for you to have good in your life is by doing good in the world. That's really what he's saying. We tend to think we want to get ahead, and if things go our way, then we'll be happy. But if we truly believe that things should go our way, and we truly understand that we're part of something greater than ourselves, then why wouldn't we want to do good for others? Because we would understand that that is actually an investment in ourselves as well. He also said, "The gods who are immortal are not vexed because during so long a time they must tolerate continually men such as they are, and so many of them bad. And besides this, they also take care of them in all ways. But thou, who art destined to end so soon, art thou wearied of enduring the bad, and this too, when thou art one of them?" Again, it's a brief passage that didn't make a lot of sense to me for a moment until I read it a few times and thought about it. What he's saying is essentially, the gods are immortal, benevolent, at peace. The gods don't need mortal people to be a certain way or to do certain things in order for them to be complete and whole. So if the gods don't need people to be perfect in order for them to be whole, then why would we need other people to conform to our expectations of them so that we can be whole? Why would we be disgruntled with other people? Why would we be frustrated about all the things others fail to be? All of the things that make them flawed and imperfect. Why would we judge other people? Because we think that we are better than they are. When the reality is we have more imperfect about ourselves than others have imperfect about themselves in terms of personal effect, right? Like my life is more off kilter. I do more harm in my own life than anyone else externally has ever done to me. Imagine that you're walking down the street and someone says something that's irritating or obnoxious, and then you kind of feel like you want to hold a grudge and you say, why are people rude? Well, that's fine. If someone threw an insult at you, you would be indignant. That's natural. But that person isn't going to affect your life. You can ignore it and move on. But what about all the things that you're doing to disrespect your own life, your own goals, your own things that maybe you think to yourself, I could go do that thing, and then you don't do it because you feel like it's too risky, or You challenge yourself to maybe live up to some kind of a commitment that you wanted to make to yourself, and then you just don't do it because you just didn't feel like it. Or you want to have a certain attitude, and then you choose not to live up to your personal goals. Maybe it's just something simple, like you want to say, I'm not going to engage in the toxic water cooler banter, and then you go to work and you realize once Monday rolls around, it's so much easier just to kind of go along with the flow of it all, and before you know it, you're back on the horse, saying things that aren't really edifying, saying things that are maybe at someone's expense, that's a little bit cruel on the side, make a joke about somebody or whatever it might be. You know, we do all of this stuff ourselves. We fail to live up to our own standard of righteousness, if you will. But then we feel like it's such a big deal when other people do something that's harmful or disrespectful to us. But if we really were the epitome of good, if we really had it all together, then why would we care what other people are doing? Because if you're doing really well, do you care if other people are less than you are? Or if you're not really doing well, then why would you care about what other people think or what they're doing? Because wouldn't you want to focus on the things that you could do to work on your own character? It's like that Bible verse that says, cast the beam out of your own eye before you criticize your brother for having a speck in his. And that's kind of a good visual, right? Like you're busy telling somebody that they have a speck in their eye, and you have, a log sticking out of yours. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So we should focus on the things that we can control, the things that we can do, in a sense, to be more godly, right? If the gods are the example of that which is good, that which is right, that which is noble, that which is just, that which does no harm, then we should focus on being the right kind of people ourselves. And once we attain that, if we can attain that, there would be no need to really criticize others, because the light has no reason to criticize the darkness, because there is no darkness where there is light. If you are doing the right thing, if you're the right kind of a person, if you are never growing weary of doing what is right, then you're never going to really have time to criticize people who perhaps take some sort of a lesser path in life. Focus on doing what is right all the time. And then you'll realize that there's not really any practical reason to spend a lot of energy criticizing other people for not conforming to your expectations. It is, in fact, a form of human weakness which causes us to criticize the weaknesses of others. It's kind of like Bill Gates or some of these rich guys, right, that have corporate private jets, right? Like they fly everywhere on a private jet. They've got multiple houses. They've got billions of dollars, and there's not a single thing in their life that they worry about in terms of money. Like money is just not a material concern. Those people don't go out and try to say, look how rich I am. They don't flaunt their wealth. They don't post on social media all the time to let everyone know how rich they are. It just isn't something they do, because they don't need to get other people to know how good they are, because they are good. When you're busy spending your billions of dollars, you don't need your neighbors to know how much money you have. For one thing, your neighbors, I'm sure, already do know. And secondly, because you have so much money, you probably don't have any neighbors because you bought the entire city block, right? The point is, if you are really wealthy, you're not going to try to make people know how wealthy you are, because if anything, you would want people to not know how wealthy you are, because it would be a bit of a liability. And it's the same thing with virtue, with moral values, with a right kind of living. If you're the right kind of a person, you don't want to go out of your way to tell people that you are. If you're the right kind of a person, you're not going to want to shove it in people's faces, to correct them every time they're wrong, to always have something smart to say, to always have something vindictive under your breath, saying, why are people like this? Why is the world so crazy? The people who are the most critical are often the most ignorant. They're the most flawed people, because it's easier to criticize others than it is to work on yourself. And by the same measure, one sign of personal growth is usually when you start to be the right kind of person, when you start to find peace in your life, then you also understand the world is balanced, no matter how unbalanced an individual part of it appears to be. There can be all sorts of crazy people in the world doing all sorts of different things, and the world actually needs all of them in order to be balanced as it is. We don't have to fix the universe. And the wise will understand that that's not really a life goal we should be having. But the foolish, they will get up every day and say, how can I go make everyone else get on the right path? How can I enlighten everyone? How can I compel the world to be in my image? Kind of like the Bible verse about the sinner and the Pharisee. Jesus said that there was two men praying, and one said, look at me, look how holy I am, look at how how righteous I am, and thank you, God, that I am not wretched like these poor, disgusting sinners. And then there was the publican, the sinner, the lowly man who was on his knees, and he was saying, forgive me for being the wretched sinner that I am. I'm nothing. And Jesus said it's going to be that wretched sinner that actually gains eternal life, not the guy who thinks he's got it all together and thanks the Lord for how redeemed he is. Humility and understanding the world doesn't revolve around you, realizing that the true spirit of wisdom is usually the spirit that isn't too sure that it's right, then that's the path to peace, because you start to realize you don't have to set everybody straight, because the universe itself is a great, vast machine which sorts out all things in their turn. And you don't have to play God. It's interesting how the people who seem to believe the most in God like to play God the most. But I think probably you could just let God be the judge of others if you believe in God. Either way, you really don't need to try to be God yourself in other people's lives. And that's really what it all comes down to whenever we think that we'd be better off by criticizing and complaining about people and wishing the world was different and trying to set folks on the right path. It's all just a desire to play God. And that doesn't really achieve any results other than to make us less happy, less at peace, because we conclude that the world is broken unless we get our way, and we conclude that we cannot have peace unless everyone else aligns to our fancy. And that kind of an attitude is the pathway to a life of misery, because you're never going to get your way in every single way. You're never going to be immortal. You're never going to be all powerful. It's when you surrender the desire for control that you're going to be able to find enduring, lasting peace by understanding that you don't need things to go your way in order to have a good life. As always, wherever you find yourself, good luck on your adventure. Till next time. Thanks so much for watching.